continue to face their challenges. I pray for Dana as she is in Cambridge Springs, CSI, and I pray for Carlton Mule. I pray for Ray Martinez. I pray for all those men and women and the young people that are right now facing some type of judgment or have been adjudicated or incarcerated, as well as our young people that are making their way through life here in Trainer and all throughout the region, that you just raise up good intervention examples for them. Then we pray that we can be a part of that in our own unique way as you gift us. We ask for favor as we approach the authorities and principalities in this region, that they would submit to your will, and that you would be the just judge of all the earth, and that you would execute justice and judgment, not only on our behalf, but on behalf of all the people from all the backgrounds, even those that are in the church, those that are outside the church, those that are being marginalized and victimized, because we know that you are a God of the oppressed. You are a God of those that have been forsaken. And we ask that you would show yourself strong on their behalf tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. We have been talking. Let me put my little thing on. We have been all this technology here. Oh my God. Wait a minute. Hold on. I had my thing on for 7 hours at that meeting. I got to turn everything on. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. Sorry about that. Got to turn the recorder off from the meeting we went to today. We've been talking about the burden of freedom, and tonight I just want to keep amplifying and maybe go a little bit deeper. And I guess it's good that we have you starting to use some technology to put this out on YouTube, Facebook, etc. So tonight I want to return to the text that we looked briefly into on Sunday, John 15. Let's go to John 15, starting at verse 1. And John is towards the last section of the Bible, Gospel of St. John, chapter 15, verse 1. Somewhat familiar to most people that have some limited Bible experience. These words are in red if you have read the Bible, because it's actually the words of Christ. I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. And every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you. And the branch, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can ye, except ye abide in me. I am the vine, and you are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me you can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered, and men gather them, and they cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit. So shall you be my disciples. Okay, what's some of the things that pop into your mind as you hearing those words? What pops into your mind? What's some of the thoughts that you take away with just, hey, my brother, and you are?
Malcolm X.
Malcolm, okay, my wife just talked about you, Malcolm. She talked you up. Have a seat, my friend. Maybe said you want some coffee or something, or help yourself tea.
Thank you.
I don't have no cappuccino, but I got coffee and tea for you.
That's okay.
So we're in John 15. So what's some of we read verses 1 through 8? What's some of the things without being scholarly or deep, just hearing those words about the vine, the branches, bearing fruit, taken away, people being gathered together, bundled together, cast into the fire. What's your immediate reflections on that? So I want to do something a little bit different tonight. And there's no right or wrong. There's no wrong answer. So just everybody be free. One thing, this is a safe environment. Okay? This is a totally safe environment. Okay? So you don't have to worry about, I said the wrong thing. Okay? Because what's important is that we communicate and that we engage each other in as what we call sharing the word. Okay. So anyone, don't all jump at once. Yes, Ed.
I think in verse 5 where it says here, "For without me you can do nothing."
Okay, that's a powerful statement.
Right. It pretty much sums up what we all just read about him being the vine and us the branches. And
John 15, 1 through 8.
But for without me you can do nothing. I was just watching on the Christian television station before I came, and it said the exact same thing.
Okay.
Know?
So what does that mean to you? Without me, you can do nothing.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Without Christ, right? You're not going to do nothing that is going to amount to anything.
Okay.
You know? It's just, what is it, sinking sand?
Sinking sand, okay. Okay, that's a good analogy from one of the old church hymns, okay. Okay. Someone else?
4, remain in me and I will remain in you.
Okay.
Not the other way around. So
Okay.
he will always remain in you as long as you remain faithful in him.
Okay. So we should emphasize, or we should prioritize that abiding principle, that remaining principle.
Right.
Okay. All right. Cynthia? Okay. All right. We're just glad to have you. Okay. Drew? You got anything? Okay. All right. Okay. Excellent. When we think about freedom, when we use that illustration several weeks ago, we talked about the fact that we all go through, we have an instinct to want to be free. When we're younger, I gave an example, talk about myself. When I was a younger kid, you know, the house I grew up in had these real long steps in the basement, maybe about 13 steps. I grew up in an old house in West Oak Lane, Philadelphia. And so I used to walk up to the top of the steps. I was maybe 8, 9 years old, and just jump down to the bottom because I was, you know, athletic, whatever. Just wanted to show off to myself, you know. And sometimes my mother would see me, and she said, "Don't do that. You might hurt yourself." But I wanted to be free, so I would go up to the top of the steps and just jump off, and just like fly and then hit the bottom, you know, brace myself and spring back up. Okay. Or when you learn how to ride a bike, right? Right? You take the training wheels off. You want to be free. Then you start getting good to yourself, right? Then you said no hands, right? Then you tell your mama to look out the window. Look, mom, no hands. You know, that's the way I grew up. You know, then you start doing wheelies, all this kind of stuff. You know, this is stuff that we did back in the 60s. Okay, so we have this natural desire. Then you start to become a teenager. You want to be free from your parents. You want to be free from authority. And then when we get free, we realize that we wish we were back abiding. We wish we had a place to abide. You know what I'm saying? When you have to start paying rent and notes and deal with situations. So I tell young people, you know, it's a big transition from being a juvenile to an adult. Things you do as juveniles, you get treated as juvenile. Once you turn 18, you get treated as an adult. And in this culture, that's very important. So we have instinctively the desire to be free, but instinct alone does not produce freedom. You have to have some rationale or some reason along with that. And here Jesus is giving us, he's giving us some meat to, let's say, to put on that bone, or some software to put on your hard drive, if you use the current technology, current terminology, okay? Because a lot of people have these desires, but you have to have instinct alone will get you some warm fuzzies, but you're not going to maintain a life of sustainability and finding out your ultimate destiny, getting in touch with the people, identifying the people that have been assigned to you. That's important too, because freedom is rarely, or some people would say never, achieved until you, number one, discover your assignment. Your assignment is something that you discover. It's not a decision that you make. You know, sometimes we decide we want to be something like, you know, when I was young, you know, we all wanted to be football players, you know. We were so hardcore, we used to play tackle football on concrete. So y'all don't know nothing about that. We used to play tackle on concrete. We wasn't trying to, if we couldn't get to the field, we just started playing on concrete. It was hardcore. But as you get older, I realized I'm not going to be a football. I played football in high school, but then my last year, they got too big. And I said, it's time for me to go now. I said, I'm going to stick to track, bodybuilding, and running. You know, I'm going to leave this alone now because these guys are getting too big now. So I had that revelation. You understand? You understand? So I still do all those three things. I still do the track, the working out and the running, but I don't do the football anymore. Because I realized that was a journey. And through life, we have these desires, but as we, and if we have certain abilities, and especially if we have certain interventions from people, we can start now to sift through some of the things that we thought we would want to do or that we wanted to do. And the way God does that is through assignment. In other words, us discovering our assignment as well as discovering the people that have been assigned to you. Okay? Because all of us have people that have been assigned to us. Sometimes they're assigned to you for a long period of time. Sometimes they're assigned to you for a short period of time. Some may be assigned to you for the rest of your life. Some may just come in for a significant portion of your life, and then they move on. But you need to know who's been assigned to you. Hey, Eric, you need to know who's been assigned to you and who is just approaching you, who's just occupying your space. In other words, the illustration I like to use is the people that are always trying to make withdrawals without making a deposit. Because we can all understand that. See, people that have been assigned to you, they make deposits first. They deposit in you because they don't have an ulterior motive. They're not trying to get something from you. They're trying to get something to you. Or they're trying to help you see something about yourself. Okay. So that's important. So Jesus was assigned to the disciples. The disciples were assigned to him. Okay. So this is another step in them actually becoming free and being able to try and maximize their potential, to maximize. We're in John 15, 1 through 8. For them to maximize their potential. Because they could have just went on long and not realize the importance of abiding in him. I mean, they had already done miracles. He had already taught them how to serve the people. They probably had A+ in preaching. But he said there's still something else you need to do for you to totally maximize yourself and for you to totally be free within yourself, is to have this level of submission and this level of partnership with me. There's so many people in our culture today, and I see them all the time, hundreds and hundreds of them. We live in a very me-oriented culture. And I was listening to someone the other day, I can't remember who, because I listen to a lot of blogs, I do a lot of stuff online and stuff. But they were saying that if you think back to the groups, the organization that was successful, as simple as people like the Beatles and like Jackson 5, all these different, just from the entertainment world and on, okay? They all had to be broken up, if you remember that, okay? It was all the Jacksons were separate. The Beatles broke up because it was a part of the larger macro culture, which said it's a me generation. They said it about the 60s, it was a me generation, okay? So all these group things, these groups that were successful, or the whole group think, there was an attack on that, okay? Because people understand that if we have a collectivism, in other words, the same thing with our community. If we see ourselves as a part of a community, we're going to do things different than we did. It's like people can live on the same block and not even know each other, right? Because they're detached from people. I remember we were working on a house, and the woman had died in the house, and she was in a very nice neighborhood. She had been in there for days. Nobody even knew. They had to put the suits on everything to get thrown out of the house because they were so detached from their neighbor. You see? These are things that shouldn't be. So part of being successful and part of having longevity in your success is understanding the whole significance of partnership. This is what I stress even in church. It's not about having your name on the church roll. It's not about shaking the preacher's hand. It's not about watching the choir sing. But it's about being a part of something that you can abide in, something that abides in you, so that you're a part of something larger than yourself. And that leads me to some of the things I was sharing on Sunday in terms of the whole mobilization versus organization. Okay? When you read the scripture, you'll see people were mobilized. From Genesis all the way to Revelation, they were mobilized to do certain things, but mobilization is instinctive, and mobilization comes and it goes. It's based on an event. And then it has a beginning, a middle, and the end. Okay? And you can see certain historical figures that came on the scene. They had a beginning, middle, and end, and they were done. Okay? An organizer or organization is permanent. It has longevity. It's generational. And I gave the example of the gentleman that just got hired to run the Philadelphia Convention Center. Got a $220,000 job, because he's part of the McNichol family, which is one of the ruling political families here in Delaware County. Okay, and before he got the job, he served as a volunteer, which buttresses our point of the whole idea of giving and sharing, which leads to greater opportunity. He volunteered in that field first, and then he got the $200,000 job. But he got the job most primarily because he was a part of a ruling family, an organization, a network. Okay, and most people, particularly in our culture today, don't see the value in being a part of an organization. Now, what I want to lift up here is what I want to bring your attention to is some things that I think are very, very, very interesting. Jesus says in verse 4, "Abide in me and I in you." So it's a reciprocal arrangement. See, real freedom is reciprocal. One of the things that my philosophy here at the church is very simple. Sometimes in a lot of church settings, particularly if it's an urban church, the leadership can be very, how shall I say, can be very, very autocratic or dictatorial or authoritative, if that's too harsh a word. In other words, it's just driven by strong personalities, and people more or less conform, and they live vicariously through that strong personality. There are weaknesses in that. There are a lot of weaknesses in that. And the philosophy that I ascribe to in terms of ministry and life is that mutual accountability. So in other words, yes, the congregation is accountable to God, we all are, and accountable to leadership, and ultimately the said person, which in this case just happens to be myself, is the ultimate person. I have to give an answer for everything that happens throughout whatever we do at the church. But just as valuable is the concept that I am accountable to the church. You see, we wouldn't have as many scandals, we wouldn't have as much as you say drama, if we operated in a mutual accountability mode. So Jesus is saying, "You abide in me, and I will abide in you." I have skin in this game. It's not just you. It's not just do as I say, but do as I do. And a lot of people shy away from that because then that changes the whole matrix, because it's now the power of your word in addition to the power of the leader's word. And for many people, that's a paradigm that they've never experienced before, because all they had to do was just show up and say yes sir, or clap their hands, or give their money, or whatever was on the agenda that day. That's all they had to do, and they had no sense of self accountability, because all they had to do was go through the motions. But we have a different I have a different methodology, because I'm trying to raise up people that can sustain themselves, and that can have inner strength, and not just this this exuberance when they're in the midst of a worship service, but when they leave, they can go home and now have a great family. They can go home and discern what type of future they should have, or what their career is going to be, or how they need to handle challenges in life, because they've taken some skill sets with them when they walk, when the benediction is given. So he says, "Abide in me and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself." In other words, you can't bear fruit. You can't producing. You can't bear fruit of yourself. Just like a person, trying to get pregnant, you can't get pregnant by yourself. Now today with technology, you can say, "Well, Pastor Keith, that ain't true." Okay? Because now they got technology now where people can get pregnant by themselves. Okay? But in the old school, so you can't, certain things you just can't do on your own. And today, again, goes back to that me concept. He's saying you can look like you're bearing fruit, but it's not going to be real fruit. And this is when we find out everything that glitters is not gold. All these people that we thought that had all these talents, and that they were so marvelous, then they peel the layer off, and all of a sudden you realize the truth about certain people, the reality about certain people, because most people, these people were never accountable or spent time in a mentoring type relationship, a mutual relationship of accountability, because once they become famous or popular, everybody just looks at them as an authority, and they soak it all in. Yes, sir.
In the 12 and 12, it says, "No one wins through in single-handed combat."
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Parallel to what you just said.
That's true. You have to have some type of partnership relationship to really be a successful person, and to really be, and it also demonstrates your maturation level, your maturity level, and that you're free. Because once you're confident within yourself, you don't have a problem sharing with other people. Like, I'm free within myself, so I don't have a problem checking, letting people know what I'm doing, where I'm going. Well, Pastor Keith, what you doing today? I can tell you what my schedule is today, because I don't have nothing up my sleeve, and I can't tell you what I'm doing today. I can tell you what I'm doing tomorrow, but today I'm doing something I want you to know about. So people, it releases you. I think it preserves you when you can have that, when you adopt that level of lifestyle, because then people, even if something ever tried to come up, people can say, wait a minute, no, I know that's not true, because this person is always accountable, you see. So it protects you, it preserves you as well. So he says, you cannot bear fruit of yourself except it abide in the vine. No more can you except you abide in me. In other words, the fruit can't bear fruit except it abide in the vine. That's a biological fact. Now, so he takes the natural and then moves to the spiritual. And it's amazing how people can accept the natural but reject the spiritual. That, I've been in ministry like 35 years, like since I was a kid. And I'm still boggled by that they can accept the natural but reject the spiritual. He says, just as you can't separate an orange from an orange tree and expect it to live. You can't separate, a peach from a peach tree and expect it to live. You can't take a potato that's in the ground and pluck it out of the ground and think it's going to live and don't put it in any more soil. He says, you can't do that except you abide in me spiritually, which means a lot of people have false fruit. They have false success. They have pseudo-success. And that pseudo-success also ultimately is a byproduct of that pseudo-freedom. I'm so free that I don't need to be in any kind of mutual relationship with anyone. In other words, those are the people that don't have any connections. I used the illustration Sunday when we were trying to help the people in Kinder Park. That's the Delaware County Housing Project in Woodland. We're trying to help them organize because they were complaining about the treatment they were receiving. And I found out in a couple of days that really they didn't want to help themselves. They were complaining about the tenant association. But once I gave them opportunity to organize, sign these petitions, I have the organizational skills, motivational skills, but you have to bring skin into this game. Since you're saying you want to be liberated from this oppressive situation. Same thing when I try to help people they have problems with the school district, problems with the police in their community. I said, well, get 3 people to come to your house. Get 10 people to come to the church. We'll have a meeting. And I'll help you organize, help you demonstrate, help you get a lawyer, whatever you want to do. But if they are so detached from other people, detached from their community, detached from a sense of accountability, now there's a critical situation and they can't respond to it because everyone's living this detached life. No one has a sense of community. You go all the way back to the greatest struggles, the struggles for civil rights, the struggles for human rights. You'll see all those things took place because there were critical masses of people who were accountable to each other. And when the situation arose, they not only mobilized, but they organized. And a lot of those organizations are still with us today. And that's really what the church stands for, is a mobilized, organized organization that is perpetual, that people can find a place that's not based on class, race, gender, all those things that separate people outside the church, so that people can pursue this quest for freedom. Then he says in verse 5, I am the vine. In other words, a lot of people are going to tell you that I can help you. In other words, there's a lot of false people, and people impersonating people will tell you, I got the answer. Stick with me. Psst, psst, come over here. I know just what you need. Okay? But he says, I'm the vine. In other words, don't get sidetracked. Don't get confused. When sometimes people will arrive in your life and they'll say, I know just what you need to do. You're in a situation. They don't know you. They haven't made an investment in you, but they have this great life-altering advice. I don't take that kind of advice from people that don't know me, that haven't invested in me, because they probably don't, it's probably going to be bad advice. But he says, I'm the vine. So if anybody comes up to you and says, listen, do this, do that, remember, I am the source. You are the branches, which means the life that flows through me will flow through you. He that abideth in me and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. In other words, there's going to be a level of productivity. Because sometimes people think accountability minimizes productivity, and it doesn't. What it does is it enhances your productivity. He said he will bring forth much fruit, for without me, you can't do nothing. That doesn't mean, you can't go to the store, you can't buy a car, you can't buy a house. People do all these things without abiding in God or any other type of mutual accountable relationship. Okay, people get married, they have family, they do all these things. But he's saying you can do nothing of substance. You can do nothing that's going to have a lasting significance. But then in verse 6, this is powerful, because I believe this is for all the people that say, I ain't got time for all that. They may add a few other expletive words that I'm not going to say here because it's Bible study. Okay. Oh man, all that stuff, man. Come on, man, I'm grown, man. I know how I handle my business. Okay? Jesus says this: if a man abide not in me, in other words, if you don't value this relationship, if you don't value partnership, not only with God, because usually people that don't partner with anybody. They're not a part of anything. They don't support the Girl Scout team, the cheerleaders, nothing. They just say, I ain't got nothing. They won't buy no Girl Scout cookies. They won't do nothing. Okay. All right. You ever see people like that? I don't want God, I don't want nothing. Get away from me. Okay. That's a person that is self-contained. I try to support anything that where it's promoting accountability, especially for young people. I'll support anything. Even when I don't have it, I'll still buy 3 boxes of cookies, because they need that level of training and discipline and accountability to be a part of something bigger than themselves. He says, if a man, and that if means some will, some won't, not abide in me, because you always have free will. Okay? Not abide in me, he is cast forth as a branch. Cast, taken away. Cast, separated. Distance is now exists between him and the actual vine, and is withered. Now there's physical, visible traces of the lack of the separation. You can see this in people's lives, and you can be withered and still be looking good. You can be withered and be, 36, 26, and still be withered. You can be a hunk and a heartthrob and be withered, because being withered, he's speaking metaphysically, he's speaking on the spiritual level. He's not talking about how we look on all of this. He's saying you're withered, your soul is withered. Your potential is withered. Your psyche is withered. You're losing capacity. Okay? It's like when you have problems in your car, right? You have problems in your car. And your car, you just got the car washed, it's clean, it's waxed, you got air freshener in there. But you got a problem in the engine. People don't know your engine messed up because your car looking good. You got armor all on your tires, you all proud and everything, but it's withering on the inside. That's the same way with a person that separates himself from that level of mutual accountability. And this is deep because it says he's withered, and then he says, and I talked about this a little bit on Sunday, the them, and they. And then he says he is withered, and men gather them. Now I think this is phenomenal because he's using the contrast here. And the Bible is really very deep. Jesus was deep because first he's talking about this whole, if you choose to be an individual and you don't have time, or it's not a priority for you to be a part of, Christ per se, but then the church in a larger dimension, and then the subset would be any kind of societal group where you have some level of mutual accountability. It could be Cub Scout, Boy Scout, whatever. Okay. He said, if you that person, you take upon yourself that desire to be that person. Then he says, you're going to be cast forth, you're going to be withered. And then he says that men gather them. He doesn't say men gather it or men gather him. It says them. He uses the plural pronoun, them. So in other words, what I just found, and I just got this revelation myself, is that for the people that are isolationists, the people that are individualists, people that say don't take all of that, eventually they're going to be in a group anyhow. They're going to be in the withered group. They're going to be in the castaway group. They're going to be in the bundled up, getting ready to get put in the fire group. And if you ever notice, when you go certain places, you ever notice how people would normally just find each other? I'm trying not to preach, but you ever notice how all the liars will find each other? All the people that want to run around will find each other. You ain't got to put a sign and say, I'm a liar. I'm trying to find somebody to run around with. Because people just know, they just start gravitating. All the people that want to gossip will find each other. You can be a large room of people. They all start, what we used to say in the army, marrying up. They all start coming together. And the people that want to do the right thing will start finding more people that want to do the right thing. People that want to be accountable will start talking to the people who want to be accountable. But people it's a natural instinct. The people that are hateful and evil will all be in the corner with all the hateful, evil people. He says, these people are ultimately going to end up in a group anyway. You ever go places, like for instance, you go to a courtroom, you see all these people together. Okay, a lot of these people are people that didn't want to be accountable to nobody. Didn't want to hear nothing from nobody. And then blankety blank, 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 blank. Okay, fill in the blanks. Okay. But now they're all at the judgment bar, as the old song will go. Okay? I go to court a lot, and I see this very sad, it's painful. These people have nobody to advocate on their behalf. They have no one there as a witness. I'm there as a witness for somebody else. I can't advocate for them because I don't even know them. But now here they are in this collective group together. This is what I think about. You go see people, you go to the county office, right? You go to the county welfare or whatever. You see all these people that's in credit, they're all together. They're out there cussing and fussing everything. They look at GD, this, that. You understand? But they're all together in this troubling, traumatic situation. Okay, bundled together, and many of them have rejected opportunities to be a part of something bigger than themselves. You understand? There's a transition taking place here, because he says, the withered and men gather them. Men do this. He didn't even say God. Men are doing this now. When you go to court, that's men standing there that you got to be. They got to be. When you go to look for assistance, that's men that have to make a decision whether or not you're going to get a check today. That's men do that. Okay. So he says the benefit of abiding is that if you abide in me, then I get to help make these decisions. Help you make these decisions and help other people, make these decisions about you. But when you choose to step outside of me, then I'll turn you over to men. And you're going to be with all the other people that thought the way you thought. So you're still going to be in a group anyway. You understand? And they're going to gather you together. To me, this is deep. They're going to gather you together and then cast you into the fire. In other words, you're going to go from the frying pan into the fire. Because to be separated and to not have that organizational structure in your life, that mutual accountability that's the frying pan. But then he said they're going to put you together. You're going to be in this trouble with other people. You ever hear the saying, misery loves company? That's what he's talking about. He said, y'all all going to be in this thing together, And they are burned. Them, and they. It didn't say some of y'all going to get burned. He said, no, y'all going to get burned as a group. In other words, the intensity of your trauma, of your dilemma is going to be intensified. And it's going to be, and other people around you are going to be experiencing the same increase, the same intensity of trauma. And this is right. You ever see some people? They're always in a crisis. They're always talking about what's wrong, and I got to do this. Oh, this is going, that's wrong. And if you really ask a few probing questions, you'll find sometimes you find some similar circumstances. This person has never really decided to be a part of something bigger than themselves. It's a person that may have rejected the opportunity for accountability, and therefore they go from one critical situation to another critical situation. And so being free involves a lot more than just being 21 and living in your own place, paying your own bills, buying your own food. And sometimes we what I found in being in church, as long as I've been in church, over 40 years, is that we have sometimes this, what I call spiritual schizophrenia. You know, schizophrenia, those people that have, you know, they 1 minute they believe one thing, this minute they believe something else. And if you study, when we were studying the whole Exodus, when the Hebrews left Egypt, and initially they celebrated that opportunity to be thrust into freedom. Remember, they sacrificed the lamb. The firstborn sons of the Hebrews was not slain because they sacrificed the lamb, and then that propelled them into their freedom. But when they got out there in the wilderness and the sun started shining on them and it got cold at night, and even though God gave them a pillar of fire, you know, by night and the cloud by day and the manna and the quail and everything else, they still long for Egypt. They longed for that place that had held them captive, that place that had held them in bondage. And there is a syndrome. I'm just going to introduce it today. I'm going to talk about it on Golden More on Sunday. It's called the Stockholm Syndrome. How many of you ever heard of that? You heard of the Stockholm Syndrome? Okay. So the Stockholm Syndrome is a famous case where there were these you could call them terrorists, freedom fighters, whatever. They had captured these people in Stockholm, and they held them hostage. And after the situation was over, the law enforcement authorities interviewed all the hostages, and they discerned that many of the hostages started to sympathize with the people that were holding them hostage. That's called the Stockholm Syndrome. Okay. And a lot of times when people are in oppressive situations, they can begin to sympathize with their situation, or they will even aid and abet the people that are oppressing them. And you see this all the time. I see it all over every day because I look past the surface. You'll see people that should be aggressively moving to extricate themselves, to separate themselves from certain situations, certain places, certain people, and instead they support these people. They'll buy from people that don't support them. They'll support. They will be mute in a time when they need to stand up, speak up, and show up. You know, to me, that's all part of the Stockholm Syndrome. You're sympathizing with the people that are oppressing you, or people that have you in bondage, or people that are holding you hostage. A lot of times you'll even hear this even from quote-unquote church people. This is how you know you're dealing with people that have the Stockholm Syndrome. They may have some mental issues as well, because you can't say that the church is helping you one day and the next day say that the church is crazy. See, you're dealing with the Stockholm Syndrome. You're dealing with schizophrenia, okay? You can't get all these services, whether it's legal, financial, helping with your children in school, just whatever, and then say, oh, well, I don't like, she had on green today, I don't like it, I ain't going, I ain't going back. And then 3 days later, here they come back again. That's what they were doing. They told Moses, you brought us out here because we didn't have no decent, we could have had, at least in Egypt, we would have had a good burial. We would have had some garlics and some leeks, We would have had a decent routine. And I remember listening to one of the quotes of Dr. King, and he said, I'm just paraphrasing, because I didn't look it up on today, but he said, when it comes to, as far as accoutrements in life, the amenities in life, he said, I'd rather be a pauper and be free than to be a wealthy slave, People don't understand the value of that. And I guess that's why I'm taking so much time to talk about this whole freedom thing, because we go through stages, even as a ministry, you go through stages. And this is the year of new horizons for our ministry. This is the year where we're trying to take not only the ministry, but also individuals. We do we provide a lot of services without necessarily having that type of budget for services. But again, that's part of our philosophy of ministry. But at the same time, you must always remember that Jesus talked about when Jesus fed the 5,000, that text, he yet it's a very gracious, beautiful text. But at the end of that text, which most people don't study, he discerned the minds of the people. Because after he started out giving out them Popeyes, Cajun rice, and corn on the cob, and spicy chicken, okay, and them large Pepsis, they said, this is a good thing, Lord. And Jesus said, wait a minute. Y'all missed the whole point. Except you eat my flesh and drink my blood. Now, it wasn't cannibalism. He was speaking metaphorically. In other words, unless you abide in me, okay? Not drink my physical blood, but remember, the life of the flesh is in the blood. Unless you embrace my life, then you will have no part of me. Because anybody can take you out to dinner today. You're going to be hungry tomorrow. Does everybody follow me? And you're going to be hungry the next day. And if you got a good digestive system, that's going to be in the dung heap anyway. If your body's working right. Okay? So, these things that people value, Jesus saw through all of that. And he said, wait a minute. You came here for the fish and the loaves? I'm not about the fish and the loaves. Yes, I'm going to perform. I'm going to feed the hungry. But I'm more about, because there are people, not just our ministry, but many ministries. There are people that at Christmas time go out here with bags and sacks of toys. We have spread out here to get 3 or 4 hot dogs and 2 hamburgers and try to drink 3 sodas. And we never see them again. Never see them again. Because they came for the fish, the loaves, and the toys. Not realizing that if we had a relationship, they can get anything we have, which means if something happens with your child, if you need a job, we help people get jobs. We do it. We have a lot of connections. The church was designed to solve every need that people have. So if they need a job, we can help them get a job. But because they wanted to take whatever was on the plate that day and leave. Okay? That's what we're talking about when we say the fish and the loaves mentality. And that person will never truly be free. Because you can't be free until you actually mature enough to undervalue the relationship. That's what this whole verse 6, John 15:6 is all about. He said, don't let that happen to you. Paul talked about it even in his writings. He said, I don't want to be a castaway. This is Paul talking. He said, I don't want to ever get to the place where I get so caught up in myself that I don't realize I still need that. But, he talked about the whole thing. I was taken to the third heaven. I saw all these deep revelations. I saw things nobody else saw. But guess what? I got a thorn in my flesh. That I might do what? Stay humble. Okay, because even though I'm the smartest person, he was the smartest person around at that time. But he said, guess what? With this glory comes a weight.
Yep.
And this weight is going to allow me to continue to abide in him. Now, y'all can fight about who's the greatest preacher. I'm not even going to go there with you. He said, some of y'all say I'm of Cephas. Some of y'all say I'm of Apollos. Some of y'all even say I'm of Christ. He said, I came to you knowing nothing but Jesus Christ and him crucified. Okay, he blew everybody's mind. And I think that a lot of times people, when you operate as a ministry or any type of caregiving profession, I've been a social worker, been a police officer. That's in a way that's caregiving. And then of course I was a soldier. That's not really caregiving. That's really learning how to hurt people. But when you're a caregiver, and then I was a college professor and all that, which is kind of a nurturing type thing, teacher, high school teacher. It's dangerous because sometimes the people that you're trying to help will see you as the enemy. They'll see you as the target, and they'll open fire on you. And you have to be ready to take those shots. So you have to, when you say I want to help people, you really have to understand what you're saying, because it would be wonderful if everybody just understood what your motivation was, and you could have that mutual relationship, but it don't always work out like that. And sometimes you cry on the outside and the inside for people that don't understand the process, especially when you see them repeat the cycle over and over and over and over again. So the burden of freedom is upon all of us. And I just hope that you can glean something from these lessons and from our discussions on Wednesday and on Sunday that you can not only use for yourself, but that you can share with some of your friends. So I'm going to stop right there and ask anyone has any comments, situations that they like to share concerning anything that we've said or something that as they dwelled in the Word. Doc, do you have anything you want to share with us tonight?
Well, actually, I was looking for my notes because I was going to revisit a quote that you gave Sunday that had to do with that burden. So you may need to have someone else speak first till I find my little note.
Okay. Anybody else want to have some remarks? Please feel free. This is a big moment.
Well, I thought as we were going